Aloha, friends and family. Thank you for joining me again this week on the Embodied Healing Self podcast. So today's guest, I'm really excited to share with you. You may remember me sharing in a session that we did together actually on her podcast, Spirit, Purpose, and Energy is the name of it, with JJ Flizanes. So I'm really excited to have her as a guest on the show today. Thank you, JJ, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Jen.
Yeah, I think this is going to be really fun. So JJ is an empowerment strategist. She's the host of several podcasts. In fact, if you go to her website, I think there's about 6 different podcasts. There's emotional well-being, there's relationships, there's food and nutrition, there's alternative medicine, there's spirit, purpose, and energy, and there's fit to love. I think I covered them all. And of course, my listeners probably already know why I was attracted to you right away, because all of those things are all the things that I talk about in the wholeness of who we are. And so immediately I was like, oh, this woman, she's got the experience and the knowledge of, all of the things. And, really you're a master coach, which is not what you said in your bio, but that's kind of what I see you as. So if you haven't listened to her podcast, I invite you to check it out on iTunes. Her Spirit, Purpose, and Energy podcast was nominated for the People's Choice Award. And she is the director of Invisible Fitness, a best-selling author of Fit to Love, How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life, and the Invisible Fitness Formula, 5 Secrets to Release Weight and End Body Shame. She's named Best Personal Trainer in Los Angeles for 2007 by Elite Traveler magazine. She's been featured in many national magazines, including Shape, Fitness, Women's Health, as well as she's appeared on NBC, CBS, Fox, the CW, and the KTLA, which I'm assuming is a local channel. And she's invited you to grab a free copy of her Invisible Fitness Formula at her website, JJ Flizanes, that is JJFlizanes.com/book. So, wow, as I read your bio, JJ, I mean, you have really just accomplished so much, and you have made such a big impact on the world in so many people's lives in so many ways. How does it feel to receive that as I share that?
It feels really good to hear it slowly and to sort of milk it and to be with it and to marinate in it. I had just done a Building Health and Wealth webinar where I, for the first time ever, got to literally put in all of the aspects of everything I've ever done to lead me to today. And that was so satisfying to finally connect all of the dots, not just some of the dots, but all of the dots. And it gave me great pleasure to do it, not only for myself, but to be proud of and to share the journey, because I know for a lot of people, they have a journey. They can't connect the dots yet. They're like, I don't know how does this affect this? And why am I here now? And I changed jobs 3 times. And how do I make sense of that? And what's my purpose? And what am I supposed to be doing? And I think by putting it all together and to arrive at this evolution and this expansion that I'm at right now, it just feels really good. And so I appreciate you reading it nice and slowly, and for me to be able to take it in and practice allowing and trusting and again, receiving the joy of recognizing that I have accomplished a lot in a somewhat short period of time. I mean, I'm not that old, but right. But there has been many milestones along the way. And I think it's important for all of us, I think we're going to talk about law of attraction a little bit today, but it's important for all of us to stop and pause and really take in our life, and especially focus on what we have accomplished, what is good, what is working. And to remember that the more we do that, the more we get that.
Yeah, the more we do that, the more we get that. I love that. And I also want to acknowledge that when we're in it, that it's important to be present with what it is that we're in that moment, right? So I'm curious, as you share with me the moment of the webinar that you hosted last night and connecting all of the dots and being in the evolution of all of the things coming together in that moment. What was in like 1 or 2 words, like what was the feeling of that moment, that realization?
Well, there was a deep peace
Hmm.
and excitement at the same time. It's a very grounded excitement.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Grounded excitement. That's awesome. And I totally feel what that means too. Like there's that excitement from the heart where we're just like kind of almost outside of ourselves. And then there's that like knowing, right? That like knowing, that peace and excitement. Super cool. Well, thank you for sharing. So I want to share with the listeners that, we are going to talk about law of attraction today. And I joked before we got on that I think that the actual law of attraction is how we are together in this moment, because, it was kind of one of those things where I was like interested in starting a podcast. So I'm looking for podcasts to listen to that I really like. And of course, there are hundreds of podcasts to choose from. And I probably have about 4 or 5 that I rotate around specific people, and yours is one of them. And so I found your podcast a year and a half ago, and Spirit, Purpose, and Energy specifically is the one that I really enjoy listening to. First of all, you're an amazing interviewer. Like there might be a previous job or something that contributed to that, but you have such a gift for being super present. You're a great speaker. You're a great teacher. You have so much wisdom and knowledge in so many different areas that you know how to ask the right question at the right time on a variety of topics. And it's just like fascinating to listen to. It's such a fun podcast because you cover so many different things, so many different facets of the human experience. And, you combine your expertise and your training and fitness and nutrition and mindset and astrology and the law of attraction and relationships and emotional well-being, like, because so many times we're in a space where we need support, but maybe we're only getting support on one of those things. And when we have a person that understands that the wholeness of who we are needs to have the awareness and understanding of all of those things, it feels really good. And so when I'm listening to your show, it's like, she gets it. Like, she gets the full expansion of the human experience. So I just want to invite listeners to check out her podcast, because it's really fun. If you're a life learner, as I am, and you love to just learn and be curious about the human experience and all the different parts of it, check out her podcast. So as I say that, I haven't studied the law of attraction, and I'm in a space where I'm speaking words and I'm downloading information specifically around energy frequencies and vibrational matches. And I'm a former mechanical engineer, so I'm like, oh, that's just me bringing in my former knowledge of engineering and understanding it from a heart level. And then as I listen to you speak, I'm like, oh, this is actually a thing. Like, there's actually this thing where there's vibrational matches and frequencies, and I can feel them and sense them, and I know that they're there, but I haven't had the tools or the words to be able to like say what it is. And my word for the year for 2019 was abundance. And abundance means different things to different people. For me, it means health, love, relationships, financial joy, all of it, right? It's like a feeling, it's a way of living, and I'm living it now. Like, as we talked before this, I'm in the human experience of feeling the fullness of life and feeling abundantly grateful, even in the other, facet of also grieving and loss. It still feels like I feel the abundance in it. And I participated in one of your challenges. You do a 30-day manifestation challenge. And my experience in it is, although I wasn't completely doing all the things, I was in the energy of it. And my energy was expanding just being in the energy of it. So I'm excited to talk about this topic today. And I want to start by just asking you, because some of my listeners might not know, because I've never actually talked about it other than in my own words, like what is the law of attraction?
Well, it's since it's a law, it's not a belief system, and most people think it's some kind of spiritual belief, some kind of wooey fooey, right brain, emotional, just a spiritual belief, and they don't actually give it some credit. And I did an awesome interview yesterday that I'll publish in December with a business owner, and the title of the show is called "Napping Your Way to Millions." And it was so great because he was literally saying all of the right things about law of attraction. And this is a person who deals with hundreds of millions of dollars every month in selling companies and acquisitions, and very successful, but got into a situation where his body was hurting because he was out of alignment with who he is, and how the reason why he naps so much is because it's such a lot of energy that you put into manifesting. And again, metaphysics and every aspect of quantum physics about law of attraction, I just was so tickled by the fact that that's why we had this conversation, because it wasn't just about money. It was about understanding the correlation and the connection, which is what my webinar was about, building health and wealth, like the connection between meditation and making money. Because people think, well, they're different. One's about stress relief and one is about logic and doing something in a business strategy that makes sense. The law of attraction really is just the acknowledgement of the physics of frequency, that just like listening to a radio and deciding, let's say, what two of my favorite stations here in LA are 102.7 and 96.3. Very different stations. 102.7 is a top 40 station, and 96.3 is Latino. It's a Latino reggaeton. It's very different, but I can't hear what's on 102.7 when I'm dialed into 96.3. And we all understand that concept very clearly. You would never expect the host of your show to be on hosting someone else's show. Like you get that the whole frequency thing is like, we're dialing into a frequency and there's an expectation of what we're going to get there because it lives at that frequency. And same thing with TV stations and TV channels, right? So we understand it when it comes to something tangible like that. But what we don't recognize is that because it's not a belief, you are living the law of attraction every day. Where it's helpful to understand it is, are you attracting the things you want, or are you attracting the things that you don't want? Do you believe that you are a victim of circumstance, or do you understand that you are the creator of your own reality? When I heard Abraham channels, Esther Hicks channels spirits, if you will, a collective non-physical energy they call Abraham. He's been doing it for about 25 to 30 years. She's not the first. She's not the last. But Abraham happens to be one of the most popular today in today's day and age, and brought the law of attraction more into focus for a lot of us 25 years ago when people weren't really talking about it. And so a lot of my work has come out of learning from Abraham and the work of Abraham Hicks. So when I got a CD from my first lecture back in 2002, and it was an Abraham CD that she had copied from me, or maybe she just bought it for me. And I heard the words and the phrase, "You are the creator of your own reality." It resonated so deeply in me that I thought, oh my God, it was like the ultimate power wand. Like you just handed me, there could be no more power I could ever receive than to know that I am the creator of my own reality. Because that means if I am living something I don't like, I can change it. And I watched over the years, it's been a long time since I've been doing this work, and I wasn't always living it. I knew it logically for a long time. I understood it. I could repeat it. I knew it hook, line, and sinker, but I wasn't actually embodying it. Because again, there's a difference between knowing something and doing it, or knowing it and living it. And it took, I would say, until about 2011 for me to really live it, and to live it well, and not that no one's perfect. There's contrast. We people get into scarcity and into fear and into negative emotion, and that's just part of life. It's just part of what happens. But I think as a general practice and rule of how to look at life, 2011 was about the time that I had to come to Jesus moment of, you're not living this, JJ. You're talking about it, you're teaching it, you're not actually doing it. Because if you were to do it, it would look and feel differently than what you're doing right now. You're still operating from anxiety. You're still looking at the end in mind, thinking that when I get this thing, I'm going to feel better. Life's going to be different. I'm going to have X, Y, and Z. So, on a very general level, the law of attraction is about understanding that we are all vibrational beings, that what makes up our vibration is our emotions, and where our set points are for anything on an emotional level, and where our subconscious and our conscious mind focus on. and then what we emanate. We all understand we have an aura and an energy field. And what's in your energy field? Is it fear? Is it love? Is it freedom? Is it joy? Is it concern and worry? So understanding that we attract where we are, not what we want. We attract where we are, what we're doing, how we're being. A lot of people, do vision boards, watch The Secret, read the books and think, oh, that's easy. I'm excited about having a new car and a new house, and I'll put a picture up on a board and I'll just think that that's all I have to do. And it's like, no, because every time you look at that, if you think to yourself, I really want that, but I can't have it or I can't afford it, then all of a sudden you're actually not activating the energy of having it. You're activating the lack of it. So there's a lot of fine tuning of the law of attraction. People oversimplify it and misunderstand it because of movies like The Secret. It did a good job of bringing awareness, but it didn't do a great job of actually explaining the details and the resistance and all the other fine tuning things that we need to understand how to really embody and live it.
Yeah, wow. I wrote down so many good things as you were sharing that. I really appreciate it. Number one, I love that you said the distinction between knowing it and embodying it and living it, because it's like gratitude, right? Like we can say we're thankful for something, but the difference between saying it and feeling it is like, it feels so much better to actually feel the gratitude, right? I mean, there's so much power in just that alone, which is the embodied healing self. It's like everything comes down to embodiment, because that is the being, that is the belief, that is the like energy imprint or signature, I guess we could say too, vibrationally, which, again, like I have like this stuff, I hear this stuff and I always say like we're the authors of our own story, right? Because it's a belief that I was just born into, like it's just a knowing. I love the distinction between that and then the victim consciousness, I'm going to call it, because it happens on a daily basis. It happens, in where I hear just, hearing people's belief systems and like, I don't have enough money. And you said, when you say things like that, you're activating that vibration, which was it was such a clear picture that you just said. So thank you for saying that, because there's so much power in our words too, right? So being mindful of the words too. And then I'm curious about, just thinking about the law of attraction and all of the things that you shared. What can you remember back to that moment? Because if I'm thinking about where I am right now, and I think I'm kind of in the space of like learning it and starting to embody it, because I can just see the things that are just happening in my life, right? And I'm in a space of curiosity and allowing and receiving. Can you think back to that moment where you said to yourself, I'm living it, or I know it and I'm studying it and I'm teaching it, but I'm not embodying it? Like was there like an experience? Or okay.
Yeah, I had just written and released Fit to Love, and I had manifested an investor, perfect situation, exactly what I wanted against most people's recommendations of what I should and shouldn't do legally. And anyway, I got what I wanted because I knew I could, and it was what I wanted. And I was very clear about that. So my belief was strong and I got exactly what I wanted in terms of the agreement, the financial and the legal agreement. Now, in terms of how it happened and how much and the investment in sort of years down the line, that wasn't as clear. And when we came to this agreement, I had a trust and faith in the idea, but I also then unfortunately focused on what I thought I needed to create some positive momentum. Because in law of attraction, one of the things to understand about this concept, this awareness, let's say this awareness is, and I know you surf, right? So it's the idea of the surfing. I don't surf, but I talk about surfing all the time in law of attraction, because you can't go swim out to the ocean and demand to get on a wave. Like that's not how it happens. You have to be in alignment with the wave. You have to feel it. And then once you are in alignment with it, the wave takes you. And now it's not effortless, but there's this co-creation of energy that's happening together that you could not create on your own. And so hooking up on the wave you want to be in is my golden law of attraction. If I know that I am non-physical energy mostly, and I'm physically focused in this body here on earth right now, and there are other people physically focused, but we're all part of non-physical, and everyone that's come before us is either back on earth or non-physical, we have so many resources that we don't tap into to help us and to leverage energetic downloads and creative ideas and to be taken on a path and to trust. There's that one poster that I remember. It's a Christian poster um, of of walking on the sand. And I think there's two sets of footprints or one set of footprints, and it's the footprints, right? And about Jesus walking next to you hand in hand or something like that. And so if we can take that concept, and it can be Jesus, it can be Buddha, it can be whoever you want it to be, it can be source energy, it could be your loved one who's crossed over, but to recognize that we always have access to infinite intelligence, infinite love, infinite wisdom, infinite abundance at every moment of every day. And if we're in alignment with who we are and who we really are, we have access to that. But we often think, I have to figure this out on my own. I'm here by myself. I don't know what I'm doing. And so to me, I wanted to click into that and live that. Now, we can't live at 100%. Contrast shapes our life. It creates clarity. You're going to always have contrast. But if you look at contrast as a tool, versus looking at it as something went wrong, or that I did something wrong, or I should feel badly about myself, then we have a whole nother relationship, and we go down the rabbit hole of negativity and shame and guilt and any negative emotion wrapped into this interpretation of something that's happened that we think is a problem. If we just change the way we look at problems as opportunities for clarity, then all of a sudden we're not so tied down to a mistake. We can take it for what it's used for. So this whole idea of the wave and having co-creating, I've done it. I've been there. It happens. And I wanted to live it more. So it happened when I manifested the investor. It all was very easy. Things were easy. But then at one point I realized that I wanted something that I wasn't getting from our agreement. And I said, I'm not going to do this by myself. I'm a solopreneur. And I, at that point, didn't have a lot of like virtual assistants or people that were helping me out. He was helping me out. We would hire people. I had a publicist. I had a book launch event person. And I had people, but they were short-term people. And I felt like I needed long-term support for a good 6 months to a year. And he didn't agree to that. But I went in kind of, knowing, and I got the call that maybe they'd have it on the Oprah radio show, which felt good. Like I was having positive momentum. It didn't happen. But at the end of, February was when the book launched. And then I had my first event around the book, a Fit to Love event in May of that year. That was 2011. And and then it kind of tapered off towards the end of the summer. And the defining moment was that, I was just doing too much. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I got an email from a coach that I had once worked with, not necessarily personally. I was in a mastermind. I was in a group, and she was doing something that a lot of business owners do in this space. They kind of want to make fun of or use law of attraction for marketing, but they talk negatively about it to get you to sign up or to, and so she did that. And you can't just be on your couch and meditate and blah, blah, blah. And it turned me off. I love this person. I have but it made me realize that I needed to be in a different vibrational, emotional state. And so between the book, kind of me having to work harder to keep it going, to do the publicity and the marketing and the selling and all of that, and then this email, that those two things together created this perfect storm of recognizing that I was in anxiety. I was not in peace. I was not in trust. I was not in excitement in a grounded way. I was literally the whole time in a low level worry and anxiety, which is what most business owners do, which is why, again, back to the webinar I just did, I'm so happy to be coming from this place now of combining these things and realizing that, yes, it's like there's a level of trust and belief that I am so super committed to living in and helping people live in, because even if you don't get what you want, you get what you want, because what you really want is to feel good. So if you start from feeling good first, regardless of what the circumstances are, if you can master having unconditional faith, trust, and love all the time, you will get what you want. But I was operating from this vision of these big, grandiose things happening with this book, and me being able to, let that momentum go, and all the success and finances and clients and opportunities. And anyway, I was focused forward. I wasn't focused in the now. And I definitely wasn't focused on everything I was appreciating in that moment and how life was perfect at that moment. I had the picture of what life's going to be like. And so that creates anxiety, that creates worry, that creates doubt and fear. And that's when the big picture was like, you're not living this. So what I did about it was to literally unsubscribe from that lovely person, as well as about 10 others that I recognized in that moment were not people who I wanted to model. They were teachers of business and finances, which were successful on one level, but they were not models of the kind of balanced life I wanted to live. Their relationships weren't great. Most of their health wasn't great. Half of them, just had other problems. Yes, they were financially successful, but I thought, I don't want to model that at the expense of everything else in my life. So I just took a deep dive and said, you know what? I am not going to move a muscle until I am divinely inspired and in alignment. And until that alignment is so strong, it literally pushes me to take action. I am no longer going to do efforting. I'm not going to effort to try to get somewhere. I'm going to allow the download to be so strong, the clarity to be so strong, the alignment to be so good that it has to propel me forward. And that is when I'm going to act. I stopped sending newsletters. I stopped marketing. I stopped looking for clients. I stopped everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I found you, right? I just stumbled upon the podcast, started listening. I'm like, she's speaking my language. And you coached me. We've talked about, you've got a group coaching thing you're doing, all kinds of things happening, live events we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's just, I mean, that's it right there. Like that's actually how it happens. And I'm in the space of it now where I just want to actually just say, like, this is kind of an epidemic right now. Like this whole, like, busy doing. And it's almost like a survivor strategy that keeps us from not being present to actually the truth of just being, right? And it's an epidemic in the world of entrepreneurs. Everybody is placing their self-worth in their doing rather than their being. And you're giving us permission in this conversation to just be like, hey, there's another way. There's another way. And it affects your health and well-being too. And your relationships. The way we show up in the world in one way is the way we often show up in all the ways, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so as I'm hearing you say that, like, I'm seeing how that unfolds. And so the thing that comes up for me is you talked about the moment of, I love how you just, like, clearly just say, I'm not efforting anymore. Like, I'm just like, that's awesome. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm getting closer. It takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of trust the space that I'm in to get to the idea of, quote, hustling and doing all the things, to thinking that we're in control of everything that happens, right? And doing all the things, taking the action steps to make the thing that we want to happen, versus being present, listening, allowing, receiving, feeling. What's in alignment? Is this in alignment with me? Is it not? And the thing that comes up for me is there's a deeper layer to that comes up for me, and that's in the attachment. It's in the attachment to the outcome. But like I heard you say, when you're really in it, you notice that, well, even if it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, I know that it did because it is the way that it is, right? So tell me a little bit more about that. Like, how do you navigate? Because it's really, to me, that deeper layer of trust. Navigate the releasing the attachment to the outcome. Because if you're attached to an outcome, then you're already out of alignment, right?
I'll give you the perfect example. It was my marriage. I had no plans on ever getting divorced. I was married in 2008, and I was in alignment when I manifested my husband in the first place. I was in alignment on our wedding day. I was in alignment a lot of the time. We had some issues, as everyone does, because your marriage is really, it's your master's degree in healing, that in your business. Okay. Your marriage and a relationship and parenting and your business will bring up every wound you have and stare you in the face. And it will not go away if you deny it or try to correct the other person or ask them to change. It will just, and you can leave them and go to someone else, but you take you with you. So it will happen again. It's your lesson to learn, because everyone is just a mirror for you. So I have had a marriage, and that's actually why I started my show. Fit to Love. That's why I wrote the book. Because again, I was thinking, while I have an expertise in biomechanics and biochemistry and exercise in general, I was like, it bored me. I didn't want to, I mean, not that it bored me. I love science. And I don't think there are too many trainers that care about science as much as I care about science, but especially biomechanics and the anatomy and physiology of your skeletal structure staying intact through exercise and not wrecking your joints when you exercise. But I'm super passionate about that. But I wasn't. But to focus on the physical body that way feels too surface for me. And so I was never attracted to the fitness industry for that reason, and because everyone that I would feel in there was about, like, addicted to how they looked. It became this condition of, I'm only good enough if I look good. And I always hated that. And so finally, when I had a business coach and we were working on the book, and, you know, I had a million book ideas, and it was like, which one is the right one? And so Fit to Love became the right one, because it literally was how I attracted and manifested my husband. I was at a place where I didn't even need him, and I didn't even want. And like, I was so happy. I was getting all my needs met in my own way. I was vibrating the highest at that point I ever had. And of course, I attracted him. And it was very purposeful. It was divine timing. We have a sacred contract. And throughout this time with him, it has been me really uncovering the work, the healing I needed to do for me. And then the work I need to do in the world, and to sort of prepare me for that. So I spent the better half of the last 6 years in deep healing and sharing that on the show. And deep healing meaning like taking responsibility for what I bring and what I can do, what I can control, and wanting to learn about it and get underneath it and understand it on a different level, and find tools and find experts and find help. And so I literally spent this, like, I made the show for my ex-husband because I knew he wouldn't listen to me. So I thought, well, maybe I'll bring on someone else that he will listen to. And as I brought on experts that I wanted them to say what I believed, because I knew I had already done the research, and to me, this is what I thought was the right answer. I kept learning more, and I kept learning more, and I kept asking questions. And I got to the place where I literally had done, I'd love to see the person who could sit with me and outline that they've done more than I have to save my marriage and to help another person without telling them what to do. I mean, that happens at some point, right? But so I got to the end of, like, let's say my husband wanted out for a little while, and I knew that. And I was still in belief that I was in alignment when we met. I was in alignment when we got married. I wasn't looking for someone to make me feel better or to complete me in any way. It was like the healthiest thing ever. So I couldn't wrap my head around, and I felt very on purpose the whole time. I couldn't wrap my head around, like, giving up. But using law of attraction, it's never about, again, being attached to the who or the what. Because if you think about, there's a very famous quote that I say all the time: think about the reason why you want anything that you want. Okay. So, like, focus on something you want. You want money, you want a relationship. Why do you want it?
Yeah.
You want it because you think you'll feel better when you have it. So let's use law of attraction here. Well, you're not going to get it until you feel better. You first have to be in alignment with it, which means you have to generate and focus on the feelings before you're ever going to be a match to manifesting it. So with that said, if you focus on what do I want to feel and how can I feel that now, if you just close your eyes and visualize it, you can get yourself there with not too much effort to the place where you believe that you have it and you don't even need it. And so I would literally take my journal, which is actually here, the actual journal that I used. And at the worst of times, I would focus on a list of positive aspects. There are many different law of attraction tools, and I use a lot of them personally. I just taught a bunch of them at my manifestation boot camp. We'll do some of them at the next January event. And there's going to be some programs that I will put on the web so people can download and do it on their own. But I use this journal to do my list of positive aspects. And I do it about my husband, and I would do it about our relationship, and I would do it about what I wanted. And I would just focus on, what do I want? Forget who it is. Because is it really about him? No, it's not about him. It's what I want. I want a relationship where someone wants to hold my hand, where someone wants to grow, where someone wants to actually listen to my show occasionally, where someone wants to understand what's going on for them, who wants to dance with me, who wants to travel with me, who wants to feel good and doesn't want to get tricked. Anyway, I made my list, and I did this every day. And I got into the space of, and I knew it in my heart and in the deepest part of my body and being, that I would get what I wanted. In fact, I knew I was going to get what I wanted so much that I thought it was going to be him because he might be the path of least resistance. But I didn't focus on him. I just made it about a relationship, of course, expecting it to be him. So we got to the place once again, just being in alignment with myself and sort of working it out. I knew he wanted to leave, and I dealt with all of that quietly and made peace with and forgave myself and did forgiveness work. And I'm like doing all the stuff, and I'm being compassionate to him. I'm compassionate to me. And the day comes, he was going through sort of the midlife crisis, and I knew that. And I thought, well, maybe just be here because you can. You don't need, I never need anyone else to make me or help me feel better. That is an inside job. And when you get that, and when you do that, sets everybody off the hook, and it creates better relationships because no one is being asked to change so that you feel better. So I knew that I didn't need him to feel better no matter what he was doing or going through. So I just lived my life as a happy person, as I normally am. And there was a day that came, it had been about a year and a half of this midlife crisis, that I woke up on a Sunday, he was gone. It triggered sort of the abandonment thing for me. And I had decided, okay, today's the day. He had said, back in December, I think it's time one of us move out. And I freaked out, and I was like, no. And this was back in 2017. And my awakening moment was in April of 2018. And I woke up and I said, okay, today's the day. So we came home and I said, let's have a talk. And I said, would you want to be married anymore? And I knew the answer. The answer was no. But he said, I don't think it should be so hard. And I said, I understand. I understand that. The thing is, for me, is that this is fixable. I have all the tools. I have all the resources. This is fixable. But I've literally tried every single thing I can do, and I can't do it by myself anymore. And I'm at the point where I think I deserve someone who actually wants to be married and wants to be married to me. And I was crying, and then he was crying. And so we had decided there wasn't any rush. And I was actually hoping that we would separate for a little while. He'd go off into the world and get a clue and have some experiences and then have some perspective and go, oh my God, what am I doing? I thought maybe that might take a year. And we talked about him moving out, and, no rush, in a couple of months, no big deal. Right. And then after that conversation was had and it was calm and he went on the couch to watch television, I got a phone call from a client who said, I really need to talk. And I said, oh, what's going on? He said, well, actually, I can't talk. I've been crying. And I said, oh, what happened? He said, my wife left me today. And I said to my husband at the time, I said, I'm going to go take this call because my friend and client's wife left him today. There must be something in the air. So I went outside and I had this conversation with Doug Sandler, who is now my boyfriend and life mate. And so I manifested the path of least resistance in 2 hours. I mean, literally, it couldn't have been more clear that when I released the tight grip I had on my marriage and making it be my husband, I mean, I was ready to surrender him to living separately. I wasn't interested in anybody. I wasn't even looking to date. I just wanted him to go away and have some perspective because I knew he wasn't going to grow in our space. I knew he wasn't going to change or see anything differently when he had himself stuck in his emotional bubble of our life. So I wanted him to go away, and I wanted us to get back together. Well, 2 hours later, when Doug and I had this conversation with no agenda, again, no agenda. There was no flirting or anything that had happened. He was very happily married, so he thought. And then all of a sudden, when I looked at it, he checked all the boxes. I now have the relationship that I always knew that I would have. Unfortunately, it wasn't in the person I wanted it to be in, but that's where you have to let go of control. Do you want what you want? Or if you say you want it in a certain way, you can't control that. There's a trust of it's there for you to have. It's always there for you to have, but you have to let go of how you think it needs to show up for you to get it.
Yeah. Cause sometimes our expectations are limiting, right? Or
absolutely.
I didn't know that whole story. And all I know is that and you guys have recorded a live podcast together, you and Doug, right?
He's on a lot of shows. He's on at least 2 or 3. He's on about 2 a month.
Okay. I've listened to a couple of them, and your energy is very cohesive, very in sync. I wouldn't have guessed that it's only been a year or so, and you guys probably do dance together. And then I'm just I'm having this whole vision as you're saying the story. I was just covered in goosebumps. It just made me so happy because I could feel the energy around all of that. And the thing that came to me is when you started talking, you talked about, do you believe you're the author of your life story or the creator, or do you believe that you're the victim of circumstance? And there's a level of self-responsibility that is required in that space, and that sometimes that self-responsibility is actually just more in the acceptance of where we are, right? It's like, in other words, and we think self-responsibility is, well, I have to do this, and like you said, well, I'm a fixer and I can fix this, and I can totally relate to that. It's like, well, I have all the tools. I mean, you have a lot of tools. You have, you know, your expertise in like the body, the emotional well-being, that all of these things, right? And then there's that layer of sometimes the self-responsibility is just kind of observing and witnessing the acceptance of the moment and just trusting it, really. Like, as you shared the story, I was like, yeah, you did all the things and you did them all right. And within
it still wasn't the right thing for me.
It's almost
ultimately,
like that moment, like energetically, it feels like this release created space energetically for this new thing to come in, and amazing that it happened so quickly too.
Well, I have to tell you that one of the reasons that I dragged my feet, I didn't want to be divorced. I never, ever, ever. And I still have moments. There's some song on right now. It's new. I've heard it twice, and each time I've cried. And it's not in a cry. I think about my ex-husband and I cry, and we're friends. But I think about like the defeat, like there's the shame that comes along with, well, who am I? I wrote a book called Fit to Love. It was about manifesting my love of your life. Isn't about another person. The caveat of the book is you have to love yourself first, and then you attract where you are. But so I could get over that. But literally, like I had written a book about manifesting my husband in 3 weeks, and I thought, well, I'm not going to be able to top that. So I had some shame about that. Right. But then of course, within 2 hours, I'm like, okay, well, but it was literally like, we hold on. So many of us are holding on to something so tightly that we think we want, or that we think we need to have. And it's causing resistance. And the minute I literally let go, the universe put in my hands exactly what I had been wanting, exactly what I knew I was going to have. It was just in a different form, and I had no idea, but it is what I was asking for. It is everything I wanted. And I knew very deep down I was going to get it. I just thought it was going to be in my now ex-husband. So yeah, when you surrender, and it's a practice, of surrendering. But again, if you can remember that the only reason why you want anything you want is because you want to feel better, does it really matter what it is? Does it really matter what the thing is that you think you want if all you're looking for is to feel better?
Yeah. And I love how you say it's a practice, because it allows the space for compassion for where we are and where we're going with what we're learning along the way, right? It's like we can know things, but then there's the integration of embodying it. And as we're on that journey of, you know, transitioning between knowing and embodying, it's helpful to come back to that compassion for where we are in the moment. Awesome stuff. So a couple of times you mentioned manifesting, and manifesting is not, it's a newer word in my vocabulary. We'll just say that. I'm curious if you'd be willing to share, like, how did this first show up in your life? Like this belief that you were going to start manifesting, and what are some practices that you have to be in that space? Because it's something that you're really good at, and you hold the space for others to join you in a 30-day manifestation challenge, to be in the space, which is an energetic space, by the way, to be in that together. The question is, like, how did it first show up when you knew, like, oh, I know there was a moment where you thought, I can be the creator of my life story, but there's a difference again between, well, now I'm going to start manifesting. And then how do you continue to practice it?
So I want to clarify that, like I said at the beginning of the show, law of attraction is happening whether you believe it or not. You are an energy beacon that puts out a frequency, and things that are in alignment with that frequency are things that you pick up on. So let's say if you're a person who always thinks that you're going to have problems at the airport, you probably always have problems at the airport. Or if you're someone who thinks that something bad is going to happen to me, you probably always have something bad happen to you, because you're literally tuned in to that frequency, waiting for something bad to happen. And so of course, the things that are bad are happening in the same frequency. So manifestation is literally just the physical embodiment of that frequency. So we're all manifesting. Same thing with law of attraction. We're all manifesting all the time. It's just, are you manifesting what you want? Are you manifesting by default, or are you consciously co-creating and focusing on what you want to bring it to fruition? The difference between manifesting by default, which is what most people do, is that you're getting wherever you are, wherever you land on a vibrational scale, that those are the things that are in your awareness. when you're conscious of that you're bringing these things to you, it's not to shame anybody that you're bad or you're not good enough or anything like that. It's actually to empower you to look and say, wow, if this keeps happening to me, something's going on with me. I'm putting up some kind of energy that's bringing this to me over and over again. To me, that's empowering because there's something you can do about it. If you just think life happens to you, life circumstances, and let's just put this out there right now. Let's say, we all die and we cross over and there's nothing there, which that's not true and we all know that. But let's just, for instance, for those of you that don't believe, you have the choice from now until you cross to decide how to focus. And if you believe that things just happen and you have no control over it, that is a victim mentality. And I promise you'll never feel good in that. People will always wrong you. Things will always go wrong out of your control. And it doesn't feel good. If you believe now, but it may or may not be true. On the flip side, if you actually just take responsibility for everything you possibly can and think, how did I contribute to this? How did I attract this? That feels better because there's something you can change and there's something you can do about it. It gives you power versus taking your power away. So the Manifestation Challenge came about when I rebranded. I took Fit to Love as a 6-day show and made 6 shows. And the first one I put out, because I had no products, no programs, I had nothing, was Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, because I literally did it for me. It was a completely selfish part of the Fit to Love program when I did it the first time, and it was called Freedom Fridays. And when I put it out, I thought, I was at that time where, like I said, this is all a practice. If you are used to vibrating, or you're used to around people who are negative, or you have childhood wounds, or you've got belief system, which we all do, limiting beliefs that stop you from progressing in your life, or you just keep noticing patterns that keep happening and you want to get out of them. Well, putting yourself in a different, higher vibration state through either practices or community will help you maintain a different frequency for a little longer period of time to help you get better things. So I realized that I needed a support group. I always create groups. I create masterminds, I create groups because it helps people to be in community and to collectively create a larger charge of energy that we all can therefore benefit from. And so I created the Manifestation Challenge literally in my head, like it was probably November of 2016, or it was probably November of 2016 that I had this thought, oh my God, I want to do this Manifestation Challenge. And I literally asked maybe 8 friends, hey, will you do this with me? And I started the group and I brought these 8 friends in and I made the audios and we did it and I got feedback, and then I launched it on the show January of 2017. So it was a download in the car driving that I needed the support, and wouldn't we all do better if we all kept each other accountable to doing the practices? And, just very simply, some of the practices are like what I just said. This journal is a very powerful thing for me. Doing it at night before bed, writing at least 1, but mostly 2 lists. One is a appreciation list versus a gratitude list. The word gratitude is fine, but vibrationally, the word appreciation has a higher, cleaner frequency than gratitude does.
It's a lot more empowering. It feels more empowering too.
Right. Because there's nothing, but there's no because. Gratitude, mostly people come out of it and say, I feel gratitude because of this bad thing that happened and I'm on the other side of it. So there's usually a little residual negative energy in when I say I'm grateful for something. Not always, but it has that opportunity to have a back end attachment to something negative. Appreciation is cleaner. So I do an appreciation list, and I always recommend everyone do an appreciation list. I do what's called a rampage of appreciation, which I have everyone who came to the Manifestation Challenge Manifestation Bootcamp doing, still to this day. It was so powerful. I wish I would have put that in the first, releasing what weighs you down, but that wasn't what the focus was. And that is literally calling somebody and leaving an entire voicemail full of appreciation and getting into a higher frequency about what you appreciate and what you're excited about creating, and noticing and picking up on all the little things that happen that you wanted. I'm really great at manifesting food. I can have a thought. I had a thought on Tuesday. I came to work at a company where I have several clients, and I made a cup of coffee because I was running late here. So I made a cup of coffee, and I do bulletproof. And my client, Jody, has all the stuff. And I knew he was always like, yeah, go make yourself coffee. So I made coffee. I came back in, but I made like a really little amount, like I pressed the wrong button. And I thought, I want some more coffee. Well, my next appointment was Jody. He comes in, he goes, you want some coffee? He'd made me a bulletproof coffee. Stuff like that. I order pizza, and then I order 1 thinking I really want 2. And then they mess up the order, and then they go, oh, here, we'll send you another one for free. That happens all the time. Me and Orla getting free pizzas. Like, I manifest pizzas like no one's business. So So when you
Gluten-free?
become,
Are they gluten-free?
of course. Well, that's why they messed it up the first time, because they didn't
Right.
send a gluten-free pizza. And at the time I was married. And so my husband got the gluten-filled, and then they sent me a new gluten-free pizza. So now we had 2 pizzas for the price of 1. And that's exactly, but I didn't want to spend money on 2 of them because they weren't cheap. So this is what I'm saying. When you recognize that you're attracting things, and the practices to help you get there, there's a lot of science. Another thing I added on the webinar that is new to me, like you, I resonate to a place where I have beliefs where I don't need anyone to prove it to me. However, it is cool to learn the science so that you can better and deepen other people's experiences of why they want to do it. And so there's, with the brain, it's basically like exercise. You get better at what you strengthen. And so if you're someone who you create new neural pathways when you focus on and create new opportunities and experiences. If you're someone who tells yourself you can't have something all the time, then you are literally set up to experience not having that thing. All those neurons fire, creating a situation where you don't have that thing because that's what you strengthen, just like muscles. Well, that's why you do practices to create new neural pathways. So the brain, the neuroplasticity of the brain can change. And now you're creating opportunity to have new experiences just by focusing differently, talking differently, doing practices that get you into a different vibrational state. So there's science to prove every single aspect of this. And I didn't know it before. I just knew it intuitively. And now I'm learning it more and more. And I get excited about being able to simplify it down to where people can understand that, wow, this is science. This isn't a belief system. And am I helping myself by keeping this limiting belief going? Am I helping myself by telling the story about why I can't do this thing or why this bad thing happened? Another practice is called milking the good stuff. And that's where you literally just, every good thing that happens, instead of calling someone and complaining about something that happened, you call people and you talk about what good happened, like that cup of coffee or that pizza or me manifesting free shoes or a free pair of jeans or like anything, or someone buying me something at the store or leaving $1 on the ground, or anyway, all of that. Milking the good stuff creates an awareness and a frequency, which allows more in at that level.
Yeah, I love that. And in this moment, it feels like you're speaking to me because this is something I struggle with. And I'll tell you why, because I know many people are going to relate to this. There's a part of me, and I'm going to be mindful of my words, but there's that part of me that there's still a part of me that sometimes I notice, I witness that I feel like I don't want to shine too bright, or I don't want to talk about all the good things. You know what I mean? It's like, then am I being authentic? Like, I'm happy to share the other stuff too, and it comes from a childhood memory, of course, where my mom would say things to me like, well, you just think you're better than everybody, or, which I'm an empath. Like, I don't like, I actually see myself in another person. So like, that's not what's happening here. I now understand that it was her own insecurity of not understanding where I was coming from that was creating that. But as you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, I got that. And then I noticed as you said that, I felt a little bit like I was feeling my energy, and I was like, ooh, yeah, milking the good stuff. Like, that triggers people sometimes, or it activates them, right? And so I'm just very aware of that. And that is where being in the community is so supportive, when you're in a community of people that are doing it at the same time, because you're witnessing each other, you're supporting each other, you're acknowledging each other, and it feels really good because you're celebrating each other as you're going through the process. And I know that happens when you do your 30-day manifestation challenge. So for someone who notices and still feels just a little bit in my body, like there's still a little layer to work on this, because I just felt it, right? I felt like, oh, like, what if every time my husband walked in the door, I only told him the good stuff that happened every day? He would love that. But there's a part of me that feels like I don't know, like I just noticed there's still a part of me that kind of feels like guilty or something, that my life can be so amazing. So what would you say about that?
So the reason why you have it like pings you a little bit, right, is because it's still a wound that you have. Someone told you you couldn't shine bright because you took it away from someone else. There's still that belief in you that who am I to shine brightly? And as if there's that like lack consciousness. And that's again where the whole like coming from abundance, not scarcity, has been motivating everything I've been doing for the last couple of months in what I've been creating, because there isn't a lack of anything. And when we falsely believe there is, then we pull back because we think, well, then that's not enough for someone else. When people shine brighter, that you light the way for others to do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's that sort of God source energy, sun mentality of like the brightest can help everybody step up. And if we shrink, that doesn't serve anybody. And so for me, I have some big things happening in 2020, and I am now clear about what they are. And I will tell you that I've had a recent, I'm not for everybody, and I know that. And part of the reason I know that very clearly, I got a lot of Sagittarian, I'm a Pisces, but a lot of Sagittarius is very blunt. And I'm blunt, but I feel like I have enough heart to balance the bluntness. However, for the people that need to hear some of the things that I say, and I love it because out of a podcast, it's not like I'm working with people one-on-one and I'm super blunt in front of their face and then they get offended. Like the people that get offended who listen to my show are the ones who don't want to hear what I have to say because they actually need to hear it.
Right.
Like they're not actually ready for the truth. So they want to like get mad at me and make it about me. So when I get negative feedback, I did a whole show called Dear Haters.
I remember that one. Yeah.
When I get negative feedback, most of the time, because of the healing work I've been doing over the years, it doesn't bother me and I can see their pain. Now, recently I did have one that pained me. And it was the next level of healing for me because I recognized it was a phrase that my ex-husband used to say to me. It was something he used to dagger me with to keep me small because he knew he didn't want to deal with the things that I was talking about. He didn't want to be pushed when he wasn't ready. And I got that. And I totally understood that. But how some people control you is by putting you down because they don't want you to shine too bright because then they can't hide and they can't, and you can't bring their stuff to the surface. He knew I was right, which is why he wanted to pull me down. And he didn't do it consciously. He did it to protect himself. So I understand that. I'm not upset about that. But that wound still was in me. And so when I got this negative review, it was an opportunity to heal that. So I could go, all right, this bothers me because there's part of me that agrees with her. There's part of me that's worried that she's right. And I know it's a she. But I worked with that. And I know that is what has stopped me from growing to my next level. I'm about to enter into another level of where that's going to happen more. But the difference is, and I'm going to say this to you too, I think it's important that people, light workers in the world, when you understand and when you're committed to understand that the work you're doing is not about you.
Yeah.
And then when you're changing lives at such a tremendous momentum and level, that when you have haters, it's like, it's not a big deal because you know that you're at the same time doing so much good and that it isn't even about you. And the people that are saying negative things about you, it's their issue. And the more you heal and understand that, it's actually, I now look at it as somebody came on my YouTube site last week and went to one of my most popular recipes and said, great recipe, but you are annoying. And I laughed so hard because I was like, oh, so I wrote back and I said, awesome. Great feedback. Great feedback. Like, that's like really, like you have to wonder, like if you're so bothered by me educating in a recipe that you have to write something on like, who has the time to like say negative things to people? Anyway, so I laughed and I laughed hard and I actually thought, good. The more people that don't like me means I'm getting out there. My message is spreading. More people are exposed to me. I'm ready for it. I understand it because I can't not do what I'm supposed to do because what I'm supposed to do can change lives so quickly, heal relationships, heal people, stop wars. Stop this violence, stop this shooting, stop depression and anxiety. Like it's so big. It's so much bigger than me that these other little people who get triggered by me are not going to stop me.
Yeah. And that's that whole alignment thing, right? Like if it's like that responsibility just to stay in your vibrational match because that is your purpose, just to be in that alignment and just to be that and do that. And, people are welcome to have whatever opinions they want, but that's not going to affect your alignment and who you are. I feel like we could talk for hours on this. I was just looking at the time and we've already been recording or on here for an hour. I can't believe it. I think we could go a couple more hours. So what I want to say to sort of bring this to a wrap is I want to talk about some of the events that you have ongoing right now, but how it relates to vibrational frequency on a collective level, because I think that that is something I'm not quite sure everybody gets. Like, people, like, there's so much collective healing power in being in the space. Like, so live events, right? Live events are I love live events. I know you do live events. Being in the space and the energy in the room of people who are on the same or within the same, vibrational range that you are in, it's really powerful. And I think live events are going to become more and more and more like the way of the future, or maybe they already are, but just like, being in the space of receiving downloads in that space type of thing. Can you just kind of maybe explain or just create the picture of how that works for people who might like to understand it or visualize it a little bit more tangibly, on how when we come together, we sort of amplify vibrationally as far as it relates to the law of attraction?
So there in law of attraction, quickly, there's like 3 steps. There's a step 1, step 2, and step 3 moment. And step 1 is the contrast. So we need people who are complaining about things. We need problems. It's a step 1 moment, because when something bad happens or something we don't like, I don't mean to say bad because it's not necessarily bad.
Right.
Sometimes it's absolutely necessary. Something we don't like, we immediately vibrationally create a space for what we do want. So instantaneously, when you're complaining about something, you are at the same time shooting what's called a rocket of desire, if you will, or an intention of wanting a resolution for that.
Yeah.
The vibration of the problem is a different vibration than the solution. Mm-hmm. So if we stay in the problem energy, we never allow the solution in. So even though you may not feel like I'm someone who doesn't really do politics, but there's a lot of people who are, do feel very strongly about a lot of things, and they want to get on the groups, and they want to do the complaining, and they want to do the getting angry about. And again, that is necessary. We need the step 1, but we also need the step 3. Step 3 is source energy, or actually step 2 is the source energy already creating that space. Step 3 is getting in alignment with what it is that you want so that it can manifest. It can be brought into awareness. And it's only through, I believe, the light workers in the world who refuse to get involved in all of the dark energies and the complaining and the low level fears that are happening, that we are having shifts. We had to crumble sort of what wasn't working, but now we're coming into demanding more and more people who are saying, look, I'm putting my foot down and I refuse to let this run my life and to take my focus. And I'm going to stay here in this space so that you have somewhere to go. On a frequency level, if everybody comes down to the negative frequency, there's nowhere to go. We need a space in which to rise up. When you practice this in relationship with other people, when you decide to see somebody, and that was one of the things that was great about what we talked about on the show I did about napping your way to millions, that'll be out in December. We talked about that Stephen would go to, like, if he was having a problem with a business partner or somebody who was trying to do a deal, he would literally go off, he'd meditate, he'd nap, but he would clear energy. He would do a healing on the person without them knowing it. Mm-hmm. And he would send all this positive, loving Ho'oponopono energy, and he would just do it and do it and do it and do it. And that person literally shifted, changed, and their whole life changed. And he never told him about it. He never told him what he did. He just did it. And that wasn't him complaining about the problem. That was him literally sending him positive energy and seeing him in a different light, seeing him successful, seeing him whole, seeing him loving, and literally creating that space that guy could step into. And without holding the light, where are we going? Someone has to be holding the light for us to move into. So it's a more powerful way, I think, to make change is to be in that space and stubbornly refuse to get involved in the low level stuff. There's enough people doing that. We need more people on the other end.
Yeah. And what's so wonderful about that I've noticed is we often start to see more of ourselves and other people in like their light, right? Like we'll start to see ourselves as, like, for example, when I'm coaching clients, what I notice is they start to acknowledge things in me that are now they're really acknowledging in themselves, right? So, and it's like, it's awesome. It's like, okay, so now you see that what you see is a reflection of you. And then they start to own it and feel it and embody it and embrace it and become it. And so that's kind of part of that vibrational match too, I think. Yeah. So, well, such awesome stuff. I mean, I think what I want to leave the listeners with is like, JJ is such a wealth of knowledge and so many things that I think you're just going to have to go check out her podcast and just look at all the different, offerings is what I want to call them that you have, because you've got authors on there and like master coaches and like all like just people who you go and get experts in their areas and you share them on the show. It's super cool. Like really, really awesome. Super Spirit, Purpose, Energy is my favorite. I'm sure the other ones are amazing too. Fit to Love I listened to a little bit, but that's the one that really resonated with me. So I invite the listeners to check it out. And it's been nominated for People's Choice Award. So it's probably going to happen again, and just continue to, yeah, I'm sure. What do you have that's happening for you right now if somebody's interested in joining a manifestation challenge or a live event or any other offerings that you have right now?
So the last live event until 2021 is in January. It's January 10th through the 12th. It's at 1440 Multiversity, which is in Scotts Valley, California, sort of near Santa Cruz and San Jose. Mm-hmm. It's on a beautiful 75 acres of redwoods location where it's gluten-free and vegan and clean eating. That's also provided along with your stay there. And then you can also do all kinds of things like massage. And we're going to be doing meditation and exercise, looking at food and how it works in the body. And the event's called Releasing What Weighs You Down. It'll be my third time doing Releasing What Weighs You Down. It'll be the first time doing it on this location. And I think because of the fact that it's going to be on this property, I normally film my events, but I'm not going to really have access to do that. So I think we're going to be able to go outside to meditate and go outside, weather dependent, to do some exercise. So it's going to really be a good way to earth and kind of bring our energy in, as well as I've got Lisa Thomas. She clears inherited emotional DNA. She's a healer. So between Lisa and I, we work on removing some of the patterns and blocks that you don't even know you have that were passed down from your parents and your generations back 13 or more years. And Lisa helps to clear inherited emotional DNA and teaches you how to do that too. But she's also highly intuitive and clairvoyant and clairaudient and clairsentient and all those clairs. And so she's amazing. And then I walk you through really understanding sort of why you are the way you are and how to change it and how to get what you want and how to use not only law of attraction practices, but astrology, how to use food and exercise as forms of self-love and self-care instead of self-hatred, and to switch that energy of taking care of yourself from honoring and bringing that into a real ritual that's not about shaming yourself, not about feeling badly about yourself, not strengthening that idea that you have to look a certain way or be a certain way to get love or to be worthy, that you already are worthy the way you are. Let's just remove all the crap that keeps you from actually knowing that. So Releasing What Weighs You Down, it's the last time again until 2021. I would highly invite anyone who feels at all called to come and join us. It will be amazing because of the property, if nothing else. And now this is our third time doing it. And then I have a bunch of free gifts at jjflizanes.com. Again, that's JJFlizanes.com. There's a bar for free tools and resources. Mm-hmm. The next, I'm moving into having an inner circle. And so the next manifestation challenge will only be for the inner circle in January. The next free one for everybody probably won't be until about March or April. So I haven't really decided on the date yet, but if you want to get on the list, that would be how to get on the list so that you're aware of when the next free one is. But there's other things, my book and a couple quizzes and all kinds of things. So jjflizanes.com is a great place to start.
I love that. And as I'm listening to Retreat, I love the blend of like healing the subconscious and the conscious, right? Like having that intuitive healer as a part of it helps when there are things that we can't see, to change. And then you bring in that blend of like, the other conscious choices too, that we can create our own life story. So it sounds amazing. I'm already committed that weekend, but I'm already on your list to be informed about all of those wonderful retreats. So thank you for sharing that. One more question before we go. Why do you love what you do?
Because with one simple concept, a life can be changed. My life has changed when I heard you're the creator of your own reality. And sometimes all people need to hear is one thing and it shifts everything.
Yeah. And it goes back to how do you want to feel, right? It's like we all want to feel good.
Yep. And the more people who are more emotionally responsible makes everyone's lives better.
Oh,
When we
isn't
can
that the
actually,
truth?
right? When we're not blaming other people or
Oh my
asking them to be
gosh.
different, everyone's off the hook. Like, just mind your own business. Just be happy. Get what you can get your needs met. I can show you how. You don't need 10 people to change so that you feel better. And I think, again, that whole empowerment, that's why I call myself an empowerment strategist, is because too many times depression and anxiety and anger and fear come out of feeling disempowered. And it's a shift in
Yeah.
perspective and information that could literally change that in a second for you to understand. When you understand that you are not disempowered and you have power in every area of your life all the time, then you can do something about it and change your life.
Yeah, it's life-changing for
Mm-hmm.
sure. I love that. That's definitely going to be a quote in the show notes. So that was awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledge and wisdom and your big heart and just everything you do and you are in the world. And it's just been such an honor to witness you, listen to you on the podcast, and share this space with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Jen. I really appreciate it, especially as someone who knows the show and has listened to the show. I appreciate your telling everybody about it. And because I really just want to attract all the kinds of right people, and you're the kinds of right people who can receive it, right? Anyone can receive it, but I think there's a certain person ready to really receive it and do something with it, and to share it, and to spread it, and to be it. Because again, words without action, words without embodiment are just words. So we really need to spread that beingness that really can make a difference for everybody.
Yep, I'm being it, sister. I'm being in it. I'm downloading it and being it and sharing it. So yeah, so thank you for creating the space to show the way.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, my listeners, thank you so much. We'll see you on the show next week. Aloha.